Hi everyone, welcome back to 1-2 Punch. I'm your host Zorine. You know the drill by now, hopefully. This is 1-2 Punch, the weekly radio show slash video show slash podcast, which is available on all the things, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. I am Zorine. We're here to talk about fighting games. Welcome back to everyone who's a regular, and to all the newcomers, hello, hello. Hope you enjoy your stay. Now, we did have a little bit of a delay on this week's show, thanks to Mother Nature, that raging snowstorm in New York City, which shut down things for a bit. But we are back now, and the show must go on. So if you're somewhere experiencing like cold and snowy weather, please take care of yourself. Stay warm out there and keep healthy. Before we get into any of the fighting game news, and interviews. We do have a guest today's show as well, actually. Very excited. Just a quick shout out. This show is run by Esports Network. Check it out if you haven't before. It's basically a website that has features and breakdowns of all various esports, especially if you are interested in League of Legends and or Counter-Strike esports. So URL is sportsgrid.com/esportsnetwork. And you can also check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. That's youtube.com/esportsnetwork. And that's where 1-2 Punch goes on as well. So we have a video version of this, and you can watch me talk about video games and fighting games and the FGC. So check it all out there if you want, and it'd be great if you could show your support of another esports publication. Really, really appreciate it. As usual, we are on Twitter as well. You can hit me up on Twitter. That's at Zorine, at Zorine, or you can use the hashtag 1-2 Punch. That's the numbers 1, 2, and the word punch. No spaces, no caps necessary, no underscores, anything like that. And I read all the tweets and things. You can also check us out on at Esports Network, which is, as you spell it as you say it, pretty much. So we have a lot of news today, which is exciting. I do love when it's a big news week because it means a lot of things are happening in the GC, which is nice because it's better than like Tumbleweed City, right? The most recent of these is Nintendo today announced a new Smash Brothers game for the Switch console. So that's a big one. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to a potential Smash game. The Smash community have been calling for a reboot or a remake of Melee for a while. So we don't know what this game is exactly yet. They didn't really release many details. They just showed a quick trailer that showed the Inklings from the Splatoon series. So if you played Splatoon, you know the Inkling kids, like the Hop Squid kids things. Yeah. Anyway, and then there's like other recognizable Smash characters like Mario and Link in there as well. And then there's like a shot where there's like silhouetted characters, which I'm sure the internet has broken down already, and you can kind of guess who will be there. So we don't know if this new Smash game for the Switch is going to be a port of an old one or a completely new one. Either way, it's exciting news for Smash fans, and I'm guessing Nintendo will probably be revealing more details soon or in the lead up to E3, which is coming in, I think, July, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. So E3 is always a big one for Nintendo, obviously, and we'll probably, hopefully, be seeing more of them and more Smash details then. The second thing to talk about is Tekken ELEAGUE. Yes, that's right. You might remember a few episodes back, or even the previous episodes. I don't remember now. I'm losing track of time. But I talked about ELEAGUE, Turner's ELEAGUE, who launched the Tekken Team Takedown tournament, which, as you can probably deduce from the name, is a team-based tournament. It was an invitational. They basically invited 20 American players to form 4 teams, and it went down last weekend. There were captains for each team, so the team captains were Anakin, Cuddle Core, Fab, and Porkchop. They were all team captains, and they drafted their teams as well. The prize pool in total for the whole tournament was $100,000, and first place team took home $50,000. Not bad for a team of 5. Solid effort. The tournament itself was played on Tekken 7, of course, which is the latest Tekken game. And there was a special resurrection rule in place as well that could be used once per team. So if you listen to last week's episode or the week before, I can't remember now, I did did explain how team tournaments work. It's one player plays at a time per team, so it's like a 1v1. And then once you have lost, you are out, and then it's up to the next team member in your roster to pick up basically where you left off. And it's basically player stays on, like winner stays on, loser gets off. And if you've lost, you're dead. You're like dead, I guess, in the tournament. But they had a special rule in place where you could resurrect players who died once, and they each team could use it once per team, and it was used as well. Now, Team Cuddle Core won the tournament, and they took home $50,000 for their win. And in the next segment, we'll actually have the captain of the team, Cuddle Core herself, will be joining us to talk about the tournament and her experience with it and other things like the drafting process and such. So stay tuned for after the break where she'll be joining us. But before that, let's quickly go over the finals for that tournament. So the finals were Team Cuddle Core versus Team Porkchop, and Team Cuddle Core's team was comprised of, and this is the order that they played in the finals as well: Kawaii Face Smiles, Brawl Pro, Cuddle Core herself, Cody, and Jimmy J Tran. They all played, and Jimmy J Tran was actually knocked out once, but was able to be resurrected during the finals game. And of course, Porkchop's team put up a great, fight in the finals. Porkchop himself, Lil Majin, Shadow 20Z, who we've talked about before, Wei Gamble, and Mateo. Sorry, always like mess up the pronunciation of that one. All were part of that team. So we'll have special guest Cuddle Core joining us in the next segment to talk about that experience. So stay tuned for that. In other news, Red Bull has announced Red Bull Conquest. Big deal. It is a regional fighting game circuit happening throughout this year. It starts on April 28th and runs until November 18th this year. And basically, it's like a circuit that's happening all around USA. And there will be qualifiers for each selected region. It's a region-based thing for cities. And this is from their website, only one region will emerge victorious and claim victory as the best fighting game region in the nation. So I think they're really going for the whole city-based storylines, So the cities that will be participating or that will have regional tournaments in for players to go enter will be Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Nashville, New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, San Francisco, and Seattle. And then the whole thing will finish with a last chance qualifier, which is happening in Washington, D.C. And then the national finals will be hosted in Washington, D.C. from November 16th to November 18th. There are 3 games that will be in this or part of this tournament. They are Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, of course. Can't have a fighting game circuit without Street Fighter, right? Tekken 7, yeah, shout outs to all the Tekken players out there. And Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2. So that's the 3 games. Kind of surprising, actually, that they didn't choose to include either Marvel or Dragon Ball Fighters. I think the Dragon Ball Fighters one is more surprising. I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe they couldn't get the licensing from Bandai Namco. Maybe Bandai Namco wants to run their own thing this year later on. Who knows? I don't know why, but it's just interesting. There's a lot of things that, could have happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. But hopefully we will have a guest on the show coming up in the next few episodes from Red Bull to talk about the event and the circuit and their plans for it. I think it's really exciting to have more circuits like this that offer more, I guess, long-term goals for players. I think especially in the FGC, sustainability is a big thing. I think it's important to have these sort of more tournaments that are kind of like run over longer time periods rather than one event, like one big event or one big tournament that players kind of look forward to and train throughout the year for. Back in the days when all we had was like the Evo or like the SBO or something like that, right? So it's cool that we're seeing more regional tournaments that are long and run throughout the year. So that's really cool. shout outs to Red Bull for doing something like that. And if you have any questions as well that you'd like to ask, or you'd like me to ask the Red Bull representative when they come guest on the show, feel free to send them to me. You know the Twitter deals, or you can probably post a comment on YouTube. I check there as well for all the nice YouTube comments that come through. So yes, Red Bull Conquest. That's the thing. I wonder if when they were selecting the dates for this, they were kind of lining them up around the Capcom Pro Tour, because that's like another long tournament circuit happening throughout the year. That just features Street Fighter V, of course, but I wonder how much they talk to each other there and tried to make sure. I glanced at the dates, but I didn't cross-check all the tournaments with all of CPT's ones, so I don't know how much crossover there is, if at all. But I gotta say, the year must be getting kind of crowded now with all the tournaments happening, right? Which is only a good thing. I think it benefits everyone, means more opportunities for both players, casters, talent. You know, this kind of stuff means it's just more healthier for the scene. You know, more things for people to do, more chances for you listening at home to get involved with the FGC. So I think that's really exciting to me. Next bit of news. Arc System Works president is entering EVO. That's right. Arc System Works, of course, being the developer of several games that are going to be at EVO. BlazBlue, Cross Tag Battle, and, you know, Dragon Ball Fighters, I think, is the biggest one that they're going to have there. And so for the president himself to be participating and competing in EVO himself, I think is really awesome. What a homie. So Arc System Works is actually doing a poll. It's available on their official Twitter. You can check it out there, and it links to the poll on their website. Now, he's only going to be competing in games that are not made by themselves. So no Arc System games. He can't enter any of no Anime Fighters, no Dragon Ball or anything. So he can only enter, and these are the options that you can vote for: Tekken 7, Smash Wii U, Street Fighter V, Arcade Edition, Injustice 2, or Super Smash Bros. Melee. The voting for this closes on March 12th. So if you want to get in there and ask him to compete in one of these games, you are running out of time. Better get in there quickly. But it's very funny for them to do something like this. I think Arc System Works is actually like really hilarious developer. Seeing like the videos they've posted on YouTube and stuff, and the hilarious kind of behind the scenes looks you get at their staff, not only like the developer team, but also like the executives, like the president and stuff. Like, they seem to have a good time and have a really great sense of humor. And I think that is only further proven by the fact that he is doing this, entering EVO to compete in like a rival company's game. It's going to be hilarious. Hilariously, you can also leave a little message to him when you vote, which I am sure people are not abusing at all. Thank you, Internet. In other news, Injustice 2 Legendary Edition has been announced for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. It is coming on March 27th, which is soonish. You don't have to wait too long. The Legendary Edition includes the core roster plus DLC characters. So it's Darkseid, Red Hood, Starfire, Sub-Zero, Black Manta, Raiden, Hellboy, Atom, Enchantress, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It also includes the Premier skins, which you otherwise would have had to spend money for. The Premier skins change, or they're kind of like skins that change the appearance of your character so that they become almost entirely other characters, you could say. So Supergirl becomes Power Girl, Green Lantern turns into John Stewart Green Lantern, Flash becomes Reverse Flash, Cyborg turns into Grid, and Raiden turns into Black Lightning. With the launch of the Legendary Edition, there will also be a number of enhancements to Injustice 2, including the introduction of an expanded tutorial called the Learn Hub, new gear for all the characters, and a raised level cap of 30, and a new augment slot that unlocks at level 30. So Warner Brothers / NetherRealm also announced a day one edition of Injustice 2 Legendary Edition. Apparently it will be available to pre-order if it isn't already. It contains a collectible coin, a comic exclusive download steel card, and 11,000 source crystals to use, as well as a fancy steel case if you're into that. So really cool. I think it was only a matter of time before Warner Brothers released a GOTY Game of the Year edition style thing of Injustice 2, given the amount of DLC that has come out. I wonder if them releasing this means that they're going to either slow down their DLC releases for Injustice 2, or if they're going to stop completely, right? Like usually when developers come out with a Game of the Year edition, it usually signals some sort of, either slowdown or stoppage of the DLC content. Like it's kind of like, all right, we've done enough now, time to round it all up in this special edition thing where we can sort of make more money from. But also, I mean, like, you know, if you haven't bought the core game already, it's an opportunity to jump right in and have all this extra DLC that you'd have to pay extra money for. So there is that advantage, but it also boosts, I think, when things like this happen, it's a good boost to the games community as well. The games community as well, because, you know, like it's just a refresher type thing. It kind of hopefully introduces new blood to the scene, new interest, you know, surge of hopefully players as well injected into the active community. So usually when Game of the Year editions are released like this, that sort of stuff does happen. So I'm hoping that for Injustice 2, it's the same deal, because the game's, I mean, it's not that old, but I think it's been around long enough that interest has started to wane a bit, you could say, especially looking at the participant numbers and from various tournaments and such. But I mean, it is still going to be part of EVO this year, which is a big deal. And Warner Brothers obviously are showing a lot of support for the game still. So it doesn't mean that like this game is dead and gone already. It's not that old yet. So so that's coming out. Injustice 2 Legendary Edition is coming out March 27th. It's the day before my birthday. And that'll be really fun. Really cool to see. Coming up next, we will have Cuddle Core, who was the captain of Team Cuddle Core. She will be joining us as a guest on the show to talk about Tekken Team Takedown, TTT, on ELEAGUE. Really excited. If you haven't seen the footage, you can catch it online. I know there's stuff up on YouTube already. If you didn't watch the matches, I think it was really exciting stuff. But really excited to have her on the show. And we'll be right back after this break. I'm very, very excited for our next guest that we have, Cuddle Core. Are you on the line? Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Cuddle Core. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am super excited to have you with us. Thank you so much for coming onto our show.
Of course, no problem. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Well, you know, I mean, we have a lot to talk about. You just came back, or you just finished at ELEAGUE's Tekken Team Takedown tournament. Of course, we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But why don't you start off by introducing yourself to us, and you know, tell us a little bit about yourself if people don't already know who you are.
Oh, no problem. Well, hi, my name is Jeannail Carter, or I go by Cuddle Core. I'm a Tekken player, professional Tekken player for In the Skies, and I've been competing for about 2.5, 3 years now.
So you've been in the Tekken scene for quite a while, 2 or 3 years. I know you started with the Tekken Tag tournament too, is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
What was it about that game in particular that made you want to pick it up, as opposed to, say, like, you know, Street Fighter, which tends to be like the most popular game in the FGC?
Well, I had started playing Tekken when I was a little kid, so I just grown up with it. So it was almost like a no-brainer for me when I'd waited at least 4 or 5 years for the new Tekken to come out, and it was Tag at the time. It was Tekken Tag 2, and I was like, I dropped every other game I was playing for that because I waited so long, and it was almost like it was like you could put together your own dream team, and it was like it was the perfect game for me because I always wanted to pair up my two favorite characters in the game. So I was very thirsty to play.
Interesting. So you said you dropped other games to play Tekken. What were the other games you were playing at the time? Were they also fighting games?
One of them was Soul Calibur 5. So I dropped that one for Tekken Tag when it came out.
Very good, very good. And I guess, I know every player in the scene kind of has their story, but how did you start getting into the competitive scene? I know I've seen you before playing in other tournaments, but why don't you tell us about what drove you to start competing?
Well, I remember it was my first year back from college. It was 2014, and we had a local scene, near Chicago, and I had a friend who was part of the scene, and he brought me into the scene, and he told me that there was a tournament coming up, and I believe at the time it was called UFGT, and but now it's Combo Breaker. But he's like, yeah, you should definitely start competing, and I think playing with all those players at the time in our scene really got me hungry to be better, because I would get beat by certain things because I didn't know certain matchups. I didn't know a lot about just dealing with certain mechanics in the game. So when I get beat by anything, I want to learn it. I want to become better than it. I want to overcome it. So I thought going to a tournament would have been the first good step, and it definitely was, because even though I only got 16th or 17th, it made me want to go to more tournaments to become better by practicing and seeing better results.
Mm-hmm. Hey, 17th is nothing to scoff at. That's pretty good for a first ever tournament as well.
It was rough. I got beat so bad.
It's all right. That's how you learn, though. I'll never forget my first tournament as well. So you play Elisa and Xiaoyu. What was it about those two characters that made you want to pick them up in particular when you first started playing? Or did you play other characters when you first started?
Oh, no. Elisa and Xiaoyu were always my go-tos. Well, when I started competing in Tekken Tag, I think what it was about Elisa was I started playing her in Tekken 6, and she was a new character at the time, and I'm like, oh, wow, she's a new character. I want to pick her up. But when I started playing as her, I was thinking to myself, God, I'm never going to get good with her. I don't know how I'm supposed to even approach playing this character. She only had 60-something moves at the time, but I stuck with her, and I realized that there's never a set way to play any Tekken character. You can make up your own style and make them unique to any situation. So, and then with Xiaoyu, I had been playing her since Tekken 3, and I just found her evasiveness very rewarding, and but you could also be solid with her too. So I like mind games with my characters, just like in Soul Calibur with Xianghua. Same thing. I love the trickery with the Chinese fighting style. So
yeah, especially in Tekken 3, Xiaoyu's evasiveness was kind of off the charts. It was crazy.
Very broken.
Extremely. All right. So obviously you've been playing for a while. ELEAGUE's, I guess, Tekken Team Takedown tournament is something that we've never really seen before in the Tekken scene. It's ELEAGUE, it's Turner bringing their whole flavor to how they host tournaments. How did the opportunity to participate in ELEAGUE come about for you?
Well, I know you've probably heard of Anakin. He sent me a Facebook message, and he asked me what my email was. And I was like, then I just gave it to him, and I was like, wait, but why? And he's like, oh, there's some Tekken thing, something Tekken based going on. He's like, I'm not sure, but I'm just getting the information for someone. And I'm like, So then a couple of days later, I get an email, because I also referenced 2 other players from our scene that I thought would have been really good for it too. So he took one of my recommendations, and then both of us got emails inviting us to Tekken Team Takedown. And I'm like, what is this? This is never heard of anything like this.
Wow, that must have been really crazy. All of a sudden, get something like that.
It was. I was a little nervous. I was like, this is nothing I've ever heard of for North American Tekken, at least.
But did you know who ELEAGUE was? Because, you know, they've done stuff in the past for like Street Fighter and all that jazz.
Oh, yes. I knew who ELEAGUE was, but for them to take a chance on Tekken, a 3D fighting game, I was like, oh my god, this is big. This is the big time, guys. We got to impress them.
Yeah, you made it.
Yeah, like that's what my boyfriend was saying. He's like, "You're ELEAGUE now. You're ELEAGUE," and I'm like, "Oh man, crazy."
That's crazy. I mean, what was going through your head in the lead up to that? Like, what was your preparation like? Were you nervous, or were you more excited? Were you like, "I'm gonna beat everyone"? Like, what was that like?
Well, when I found out, I don't think I changed much of my preparation, because what I usually do is I stream, but when I stream, I do like death matches with people. I do practice mode on certain matchups I want to just learn more about. It wasn't really anything different that I changed in my practicing. If anything, it was just making sure mentally I was prepared, because I think tournament nerves can get to people, and I think it's always good for people to have those resources to kind of calm them down, so that the way that they play at home is the same way that they'll play when they're on that stage. And though it was big, it reminded me of when I play in other tournaments and I'm on the stage. It felt just like that. It just happened to be that there were people in the crowd, but it didn't bother me. I had everything I needed. The game sound was good. It was the way I game sound has to be like really loud, and it was. I had gum, and I had water, and I had my team with me, and I think that's all I needed.
Nice. You had gum and your water. Nice.
I love gum.
Is that your secret when you play in tournaments? You always have to chew gum.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I love gum. It really calms my nerves. My mother, she taught me that strat when I would take tests.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's awesome to hear that, you know, it felt just like, you know, any other tournament for you. And that, like, it just goes to show, like, all the, you know, experience that you've had competing over the years has really paid off, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was finally glad to play the way that I wanted to at a tournament. Because since the beginning of 2018, I've been getting better and better with, like, dealing with my nerves and really just knocking them out. And because sometimes I feel like I'm a little inconsistent in regards to my nerves, so sometimes I feel like I lose like certain things that I shouldn't. But with 2018 starting out, I made a goal that I would continue to improve in that sense, and to always talk to myself, like in my head, every time either something goes right or wrong against somebody, talk about that to myself and either change it or continue to do it if it's working. But never to go right into a match if I never to just go into a rematch if I lose, but always switch as well. Always switching characters, because sometimes if one matchup doesn't work for that character, it'll probably work out for you if you switch the character. So if you know what you did wrong, so just small things. Told myself.
Yeah. Do you feel like the mental state you're at now, do you feel like you're kind of like, yeah, like you're pretty much on top of your game, and you're feeling like, oh, this is like you as a well-oiled machine, I guess you could say, and like just ready to play at the competitive level? Or do you feel like, you know, you've still got a few things that you want to improve upon or learn in particular?
A little bit of both. Depending on matchups, I definitely feel like I'm a well-oiled machine, and then I can take it on. It doesn't matter who it is. But then, in regards to like, I think like just how I think when I play, I do want to just fine-tune a couple of things, just because I feel like when I'm in tournament, I just think I need to go to just a few more, just so I can like try out my new theories on my mental state when I play.
So does that mean you'll be traveling more this year and attending more tournaments throughout the US, I guess?
I would like to, because every year I usually just go to like 3 or 4, but I'm also in school, but it's my last year and I have 2 more months left, so after that I'm definitely going to be traveling more. That's definitely what I want. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's really awesome to see, you doing so well and see you at ELEAGUE. I know a lot of people didn't really know who you were before or hadn't heard of you. So, I think ELEAGUE was a good opportunity to highlight players that they may not have followed or knew who they were before that.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Because in the North American Tekken scene, a lot of us are very familiar with each other, but I think on a wider scale, a lot of us got more exposure. And it shows that there's more talent than just the usual American players that they name, but there's upcoming talent too that knows what they're doing.
Definitely. Do you feel like that's a problem in the Tekken scene as a whole, like exposure, I guess, for other talent or newcomers to the scene?
I think sometimes, yes, because a lot of the time I've seen what audiences focus on a lot of the time are like Tekken overseas, because I believe that people feel that is the standard for how Tekken should be. And and I don't disagree with that. I feel that you can find talent in any region or country in regards to Tekken. I just think people should keep an open mind to it, because I think even with like regions, people play differently. Like South America plays different than Korea. Korea plays different than Japan. Japan plays differently than North America, but you can learn something from the top players in every single region that possibly like mains a certain character that you might be looking at.
Definitely. Yeah, I think especially, I'm from the Australian FGC, and we basically paid a lot of attention to like Korea and Japan. And because of the way the machines were set up, we could also link to them as well and like watch their matches and stuff. So I think there definitely needs to be more efforts made in highlighting local talent. And I think that's something that's starting to change slowly, but also we need to see more of it.
I completely agree.
Now, to talk about ELEAGUE itself, what did you think about the event and how it was run?
Oh my God.
Where to begin?
It was an opportunity. Like, I never experienced anything like that as a Tekken player. The treatment felt so good. Tekken isn't really, we don't get events like this in North America, and it was like anything we needed, we had it. They had snacks in every practice room. Every team had a practice room. The studio was massive, but they were so accommodating. Me and the gum, I asked for gum last minute. One of the managers there, like, her name was Jordan, I think, she came back with 3 packs of Orbit. And then Kenny, another one of the people who worked there, brought hand warmers, and they had water, and oh my God, they gave us free dinner, and it was at this very beautiful, fancy place, and it seemed to have like a more Hispanic feel, and the food was delicious, and they gave us $150 just debit card for whatever we needed, and gave us beautiful pictures for us to take home or like to use on Facebook and interviews, and it's just, oh God. And the funniest thing about all this was that in the beginning, in the practice rooms, every room had Tekken, of course, but they didn't have the updated versions, so when they were notified about that, they automatically, right away, got the updated patch. And I was like, so quick! Like, they were just great, and the stage was beautiful, and they had this eye tracking machine that
yep.
Yeah, I was like, I've never seen any high-tech technology like this. It's like, oh God, it was just I've never been treated like such a queen at an event like that. Like, oh my God.
That sounds incredible. Like, I know Turner, are known for hosting amazing events, and I'm really happy to hear that they treated Tekken just like they would any other, big game that they were hosting. And I've got the wonderful Cuddle Core on the line. We're here to talk about ELEAGUE's latest Tekken tournament, the Tekken team Takedown. And Cuddle Core, I have to say, your account of all this is just so refreshing and nice to hear. I'm really happy to hear that you had a really good time there.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be able to talk about the experience. I will never forget anything like that.
Now, there was 4 teams. I have to say, the team format is not something we see a lot of in Tekken. Of course, Tekken Crash does it, SBO does it, but I wanted to know what you thought about the format of having, I guess, 5 players per team competing against each other.
It reminded me of the old Tekkens, the team battle. Even like the way they set up the players' pictures from what we could choose from, and who would be on the team, like in the display, the graphics for it looked just like it. So I was kind of familiar with it, but not in tournament. I always rely on myself. So it's like, oh, this is new. This is different. We're all trying to compete for 100,000, well, 50,000 for first place. And it's kind of like, okay, so I have to kind of try and work with what I got, because I had a dream team in mind, and I wrote it down, and I had a whole list and everything. But based on the order, I couldn't exactly pick all of who I wanted. So, but I got some pretty good picks. So it was nice to work together with people. I think it was I like working with people. It's good to work together, collaboration. It's interesting. I never had to do that in Tekken ever.
Yeah. I mean, one team, one dream, right?
Yeah, that was great.
So when you were putting together your dream team, how did you decide who you were going to pick? Was it like you were trying to, I guess, account for each other's weaknesses and have players who would complement each other's styles? Or were you going for, I guess, personalities or people who you knew would mesh, or I guess having a character range that could cover, I guess, in any situation? What was your tactic?
Oh, well, originally when I was thinking of the dream team I would have when I had found out that I was invited to ELEAGUE was more like, it was based on tournament results and who I had seen perform amazingly time and time again, and who I had played. And, I mean, all of them, all my choices were like top players or players that had like placed really high, either recently or in Tekken in general. So, or people that had given me a hard time when I fought them, and they were like difficult, like just in the way that they played, and not so much personality, because I think a lot of the Tekken players are just they're level-headed people. I don't really have nobody's really like aggressive or anything, so that was fine, because a lot of the Tekken players are like old school, so they go way back anyway. So I definitely think it was more for me tournament experience and who I knew had placed well and did good under pressure, had maybe even played against some international people, and it was all about experience for me. Who had the most experience?
And how did you feel when they told you that you were going to be, I guess, the captain of this team and drafting them?
I'm not going to lie. I was really shocked. I was like, because I had read the PDF that said the captain picking is based on the Shoryuken ranks in regards to Tekken 7. I was like, if that's the case, how in the world did I get picked? Because I'm ranked 41, but a lot of the other players were like ranked above me based on their points from a lot of the other tournaments they went to, because I didn't really go to that many. And so I know you could refuse to be a captain too. You didn't have to. So I'm figuring maybe, a couple of people turned it down. And so then,
I see.
Probably 2 or 3 people turned it down based on the rankings. And then I was next. So I was like, I'm not going to turn this down. This is perfect. I want this.
Yeah, I mean, well deserved. You've obviously, the team you drafted, you led them to victory. And I think that, has to say something.
Yeah, I definitely, I think it does too. I'm not used to being a leader. I kind of just do. I just do. And I hope that in itself sets an example to others. I think if I think of myself as some sort of leader, it makes me feel uncomfortable. I always want to feel like I'm the support, and that I never have to think of myself as some sort of higher role, because I just naturally just am myself, and that alone should, and I hope that helps. And I just think I didn't want to take on like a bossing, bullying role, because that's not who I am. But I think no leader has to just be or like a captain doesn't have to be they don't have to be aggressive and mean and forceful. But I think what makes a good leader and a captain is somebody that listens to others. And if somebody might have more experience than you on your team, you listen to them too. You show respect to all of them. It shows a mutual understanding. You plan, you practice, and most importantly, I can't stress it enough, is listening to everybody.
Yeah, and it looks like you absolutely did that. I mean, I saw you going up on stage, you were coaching your players regularly in between matches, whether they won or lost. What were those conversations like? What would you usually say to them?
Oh, okay. So, say, for example, when Cody was going to get speed kicks, he won the first one. So I walked up there and I'm like, "How you feeling?" And he was like, "Oh no, I'm fine. I'm good." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "You need anything? You good?" He's like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "Okay, knock this out. Knock this out the park." And that was kind of just like it. Or like when somebody would be down a game, I would point out things that maybe they were missing, or like vice versa. If I was down a game and they would point out something that I might have missed to kind of slow down the pace. Like, for example, when I went against Joey Fury, I took the first game. The second game, he beat me, I believe, 3-0. And Cody came up to me and he's like, just slow it down a little bit. Just, play the way you were playing. Smaller pokes, less risk. And so I did what I was doing originally the first game, and I was able to bring it home third game and take him out. And I think that helped that I listened to him, because sometimes when we're in it, we forget certain things. But somebody on the outside watching somebody especially who's seasoned and very experienced in the game, can definitely tell you what's going on with your gameplay. That's why I think it's so important to listen. And he's like, "You listen." He's like, "I'm so glad you listen." I'm like, yeah, I try to. I try really hard. I don't want to look too free now.
But, you also played the other role, being the person to help and tell other people, give them an outside perspective as well, right?
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Do you feel like you would like to see more team format tournaments in the Tekken scene after having played in this one?
Yes, I believe I do. I think the only problem I might see from like people in regards to the format, I think is maybe the team order, or like how it's picked. I feel like maybe players should be able to, like, whoever got invited should be able to pick like their own teams, because I feel like when you're left with, like, say somebody picked somebody you wanted, if there's certain people that you didn't like want as a first pick, it could be kind of hard to just, like, you don't get everybody you want. But I think if players were able to like select who they wanted without that stressor there about like, oh well, the player I wanted is gone, now what do I do? I think it would help a lot. But I think that format actually does still help people kind of improvise and work together. I just think maybe, them switching around how we pick would be a little nice.
Oh, okay. So when you drafted your teams, you weren't able to make your first pick? Am I understanding this correctly? Well, the order, in the way the order was, I got to pick first, but I also picked last too.
Mm-hmm. It was called a snake order. So I would go, then Poke Chop, then Fab, then Anakin. Then Anakin would pick again, then Fab, then Poke Chop, then me, and then it would keep on going.
Right.
So it's so easy to, like, any pick that you wanted, it probably would have been gone in the first like 2 or 3 picks. And a couple of your picks would probably be picked by the other players. So it's like, oh man, like this is rough. Now I have to change my whole order. And so you have to rethink player strats in your head and who's good in this situation, who's good in this. So it's like, you kind of have to think on the spot. When the person you want gets picked, you have to think, okay, so who's my next pick? Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard.
Right. Okay. Yeah, now I understand it. Yeah, I think, it's a hard situation, especially from the organizers or TO's point of view when you have drafts like this. So are there any other suggested changes that if ELEAGUE were to do another Tekken tournament, what would you like to see them do or try?
What I personally would like to see with ELEAGUE in regards to this tournament or the team format would be probably maybe make it a 2-day event. Or no, I mean they did this time too, but maybe like a 2.5, maybe 3-day event where it's more than just like 20 players. Maybe more than that, because I personally feel that there's more than 20 of the best players. I think there's like maybe 40. But not everybody got invited because they weren't able to this time. But in that case, yeah, I wish there was more, and I wish that there were more teams so that we could see even a bigger arrangement of talent, and whoever was picked, everybody would get the list of who was picked. But you didn't have to. People could sign up and do like the whole captain thing, but you would get to pick your own team. You ask the people you want. You would ask them yourself. It wouldn't be like a whole order, because people do have their favorites of who they would go, like what team they would go to. So I don't think that would be such a I don't think that'd be that big of a problem. I just felt like it wasn't. I think there should have been more players, and I definitely think that there should have been less of a order in the picking.
Yeah, it's always tough in those drafting situations, right? It's almost like being back in school when people are picking players like for their baseball team or something. You don't want to be the last one left over. You don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Exactly. And I feel like with that, like the way the order was, I think that kind of put people in awkward situations. Like, they didn't pick other people over other people. And it was like, well, if we all just knew we all had like the list of the players, if we were just able to just ask people like in some sort of way or like thread about if they want to join our teams, if we gave ELEAGUE our top 5 picks, and if they accepted, then I would get those players, or if they declined, then I would have to find other players. I just feel like that might have been a better way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are wrapping up the show. Thank you so much for your time today, Cuddle Core. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Where can people find you online if they want to know more about you?
Oh, well, I stream on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/cuddle_core, or on Twitter, which is at capital I, capital T, capital S, ITS, Cuddle Core. You can't miss me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And will we see you at any upcoming big tournaments?
Yes, you will be seeing me at Combo Breaker 2018 and EVO 2018.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time, Cuddle Core. You heard it here first, everyone. She's going to be at Combo Breaker and at EVO. So if you want, catch her there. Check out her stream. Follow her on Twitter. All the things. I'm Zorine, your host. You're listening to 1-2 Punch, and I'll hopefully see you all next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.